Notified it's that time of year again for the Project for Awesome. I know that Hank in his guidelines said that we should try to be a bit funny, a bit different, but we're talking about something quite serious today, so we're just not going to be very funny.
So we generally aren't very funny people, so you're gonna have to forgive us. We come from a country called South Africa, which is over there in the south of Africa, because the person who named it was feeling incredibly creative.
So South Africa is probably most famous for having one of the most oppressive systems that have been put in place in possibly all of human history. It was called apartheid, and they basically gave white people more rights over those who were classified as non-white people.
In this system, non-white people were particularly discriminated against in almost all areas of life. White people went to certain beaches that non-white people were not allowed to go to. Non-white people weren't allowed to sit in certain park benches or travel in certain public transports. Thankfully, 20 years ago, this system came to an end with a great help from this man, Nelson Mandela. Unfortunately, he passed away just over a year ago, and it was a great morning for our country.
So, when apartheid ended 20 years ago, with a lot of help from the international community, most people just assumed that the magical fairy of democracy would just come about and change everything, and immediately everything would be equal and everyone would be happy.
Sadly, this isn't the case. 80% of the population are black people, whereas only 12% of that 80% go and study further in higher education.
So this is where our charity comes in. Our charity is called Equal Education.
Also a very creative name.
Equal Education aims to add equality and quality to the South African education system.
This charity is also incredibly helpful in Parliament as well, because they have a say in certain decisions that the Department of Education make and that certain leaders in Parliament make.
Particularly in South Africa, in our constitution, it says that everyone has the right to a basic and equal education, and that's something that has been extremely difficult to come by, especially after apartheid, because the effects are definitely still being felt here.
There are certain criteria that schools have to meet.
So, for example, you have to have a certain number of classrooms, a certain number of desks per classroom, certain facilities so that the children can receive the best possible education that they can.
One of the campaigns that Equal Education fund is the campaign to help improve the infrastructure of these schools.
They also run quite a few other projects, like trying to improve sanitation in schools. They try to get textbooks, which, if you're not South African, you probably don't realize is quite a big deal here. Often children don't get their textbooks on time, which is obviously extremely problematic, especially if you're in your final year of high school and you're trying to pass your final exams without a textbook. So they try to do all these kinds of things, and it's really, really helpful, but they need donations. Without donations, they can't function.
Please, please, please donate. All the links will be in the doobly-doo down below. And don't forget to check out Project for Awesome.
Please donate as much as you can to as many charities as possible. Any help in any way to any charity will be so, so greatly appreciated by everyone involved.
CFTBA.